Friends, this side Rahul Magan here is a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting and also a venture capitalist. Now standing today, we're going to be shooting a pretty important video about a topic which is known as the Singapore FinTech ecosystem. Well, first of all, we would like to congratulate Monetary Authority of Singapore and all the requisite associations like Enterprise Singapore and all. They all did a fabulous job because Singapore FinTech Festival happened 11th November to 15th November. I don't know how many of you watching this video came here, but not many people know that Singapore FinTech Festival is actually divided into two parts. The first part is 11th, 12th and 13th, which is taken care by the government, and which is you have exhibition come conferences and at a very nominal charges, which is I think a very grounded charges, almost free. Apparently speaking, 14th, 15th is handed over to the banks. So when it comes to rating, then 11th, 12th and 13th, it's hats off. I give at least 8.5 out of 10 to Monetary Authority of Singapore, Enterprise Singapore and IPI, which is Intellectual Property Institute, and many. Well, it comes to 14th and 15th, we have deep stuff that we will discuss when the time would come. Now, apparently speaking, when we talk about the Singapore FinTech system, it is changing at a very faster pace. Like this is my second FinTech festival which I attended as an organization. The first FinTech festival which I attended is in 2018, and hopefully in 2020 we would be one of the virtual banks in Singapore, those who would be attending the FinTech festival. Now when it comes to the FinTech, Singapore is changing at that faster pace that it is very difficult to tell how speedily they are changing. There is nothing which actually they are leaving when it comes to blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, cryptocurrency and all, payment systems, payment gateway and all. When I talk about the FinTech system, we should thank you to Business Times, we should thank you to Monetary Authority of Singapore to give us some numbers, because without their help, their initiatives and their hard work, it's very difficult for us to get these numbers in public domain. We got this kind of magazine on 11th, it's dated 11th November 2019, which is the first day of FinTech Festival. Now, we got some numbers of the FinTech Festival. Now, this is that. Now, let me first tell a statement by Ravi Menon. But before Ravi Menon, let me give you some numbers. You know, these are the numbers which we got. Now it is said that in terms of funding, in 2015, Singapore FinTech system got around $299 million, roughly $300 million. In 2016, the funding reduced to 280, little bit I consider this as a flat. Now in 2017, it got 416 million, well done. In 2018, Singapore got around $642 million, which is over $500 million. And till September 2019, which is practically 9 months, which is YTD September 2019, Singapore got $735 million of funding. Now, if we go with this run rate, then this run rate suggests that, you know, Singapore will definitely cross $1 billion mark in 2019. And with this, they have a very strong FinTech ecosystem. But once again, the concern of SoftBank demise is very, very imminent. We cannot run away from that concern. We need to appreciate that. Now, having said that, Singapore number of deals, I have a little interpretation issue. The number of deals in 2015 is 77 million. So I repeat again, in 2015, you got around $299 million of funding, while the total number of deals is 77. In 2016, the funding reduced to 280 million, while the deals grew to 99 deals, which is roughly 100 deals. When it comes to 2017, the total funding is around 416 million, while the total deals increased to 122. In 2018, as against 642 million of funding received, the total deals is 161. Till now, everything is going good. I'm in sync with MAS or whatever respective authorities that things are moving good. Now, when I look at 2019 number, and just now we shooted a video on the SoftBank whereby it is publicly evident that the venture capitalists are not investing in every startup the way they used to be. And of course, they have their own reasons behind that. Where I take a hold here in this part of the globe as well. In the last 4 years, a lot of action happened on blockchain front, cryptocurrency front, initial coin offering, your STO, and whatnot, all fancy terms. Many of the conferences invited by me as well. Several people got the funding, but the end, what happened, we do not know. When I consider this and see 2019, Singapore got around $735 billion, but the total number of deals is 94. That is a cause of concern. That the amount of funding is growing by almost 100 million, but the total number of deals is reducing from 161 to 94, which is practically 70 less deals. It's quite evident in the media, and a lot of websites who publish limited information about the VC funding suggest that there is a huge cartelization happening. But still, Singapore FinTech ecosystem is pretty strong and pretty robust. I have something to discuss about Singapore FinTech Festival, which is that amongst the FinTech category that attracted the most funding, that was the payment setups, and we have evidently saw this in the FinTech Festival. Apart from the European contribution, like we were having Luxembourg contribution and multiple European countries came into the picture, there were many payment players which was there. And we need to appreciate one thing, that payment players cannot establish themselves until they have a huge backup. Without a very exorbitant amount of funding, setting up payment gateway is definitely not possible. It requires a humongous amount of funding. So I repeat, amongst the FinTech category that attracted the most funding was of the payment startups, which accounted for 34% of the FinTech funding. The value of the payments deal done more than double to around 251 million from 2117, which is roughly $118 million. The leading category accounted for another 20% are the insurtechs, and the rest is the different startups. So action is definitely happening in Singapore. But one important thing which Monetary Authority of Singapore and requisite associations with due respect to consider is that it should not be thematic in nature. FinTech is good thing, it's financial technology, but it should not happen. Let's take a simple example. In 2018, when I came to FinTech Festival, I saw a startup come, a player who challenged that he made a financial terminal wherein you get the rate via blockchain. Financial terminals, this is GBP, Euro, Swiss franc, Japanese yen, and whatnot. And this can easily be linked up with Murex. I don't know you trust me or not, but if you trust, I spent half an hour with him. There is almost 500 plus exhibitions every time we have. This time Singapore claims that they have around 60,000 visitors with 900 plus exhibition. I trust Singapore number always. So I spent half an hour. Now this time I was for all 3 days and I not got this startup. I wrote an email to them much before Singapore FinTech Festival that I wanted to meet you, wanted to see. You claimed that probably by next year you would able to link your product with the Murex, but unfortunately I have not saw them. So this is actually FinTech, capital market. I call this as a CapTech. FinTech is good, there is nothing wrong in that, but don't make it thematic like it's a payment gateway, just like InsurTech. Now what fancy is happening, it's a MedTech. But where is CapTech? Like in the whole FinTech Festival, I have not seen a single person who talking about SupTech. We talking about SupTech as day in day out pass, which is supervisory technology. I have seen hell lot of player about that, but we're not talking about SupTech. And no one is because to talk about the SupTech, we need to have banks on the board, we need to understand the pain of the banks, and this requires more skills than funding that Singapore need to understand very clearly. So thematicness should not be there. Well, we have one more data which is provided by the Singapore about their FinTech, which is that you can very well see, but this data is not about Singapore, this is about Southeast Asia, SEA. And Singapore is one of the key of Southeast Asia. So example, without talking about Shah Rukh Khan, one cannot talk about the Bollywood. That's also a fact. When it comes to Southeast Asia, around 70%, more than 70% of the consumers are underbanked or they do not bank today, which is a big opportunity like mine are and all. Around 70% are SME merchants. They accept the cash. They have no payment gateways. They don't use that. And more importantly, they do not have the skills also. Nobody is imparting the education also. I do not want it to degrade anyone, but I have hardly seen a payment gateway on the YouTube channel. I don't want to name any payment gateway. I have hardly seen a payment gateway. Those who having a YouTube channel and giving a knowledge to the people that this is how you can use the payment gateway. But they spent humongously on Eventbrite. They spent lavish parties. Like, I don't want to name, but yesterday I was invited in a party at Mandarin Oriental. So we are Marino 1. Mandarin Oriental is just 15 minutes walk, and I always go by walk because you go via Marina Bay Sands. That's always very interesting stuff. When I go there, I was very fascinated to see that they hold a party at Mandarin, and this party was attended not less than by 100 plus people. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I am more or less a vegetarian. And the good part was that vegetarian food was not available. I was not creeping. So I took one, I would say one soft drink. It was a Pepsi. I took some sweets and I was more focusing about the product and all. Literally speaking, if you invite 100 people at Mandarin and you offer them non-vegetarian food, you offer them the wine, the beer, the soft drinks to people like me, how much is the cost? Mandarin is not less than $150 per plate. Now, this money I can spend to create a better education environment, to create a better EdTech product. I have seen a lot of payment platforms, insurtech platforms, they have almost zero presence on the social media. So they spend heavily on such kind of conferences, but they do not understand that now how many people did they met yesterday? 100 people. If you would have YouTube channel, you can meet thousands of people. The limit is endless. Now if we go further, around 38 billion is the total revenue, is the gross digital payment. And the total digital payment transaction value is the 1 trillion. So out of 1 trillion, the total revenue is the net, which is 38 billion. Now 110 billion comes from digital lending, 75 billion coming from digital investment, 28 come from digital remittance, while 8 billion coming from digital insurance. So overall, if you look Southeast Asia, then FinTech is growing. But we need to appreciate one thing very clearly, that FinTech is completely dependent upon the venture capitalist. If venture capitalists take one level back, then this entire ecosystem which is created will collapse, just like 2008. I know people sound me as a pessimist, but I'm not. I'm a realistic person. I see that if FinTech system, if the venture capitalists collapse, and which is most evident because SoftBank is on the verge of collapse, they need $100 billion desperately, and who will give them $100 billion? It's not $100 million. They are asking for $100 billion, right? Then this ecosystem will collapse. And if this ecosystem will collapse, just like 2008, when no one envisaged that the banks can collapse, but they collapsed one by one. Goldman, JP, Standard Chartered, AIG, Bear Stearns, Lehman. Who did thought that Lehman and Bear Stearns can collapse? But it happened. Citibank share price reached less than $1 in 2008. Citibank, less than $1, right? So we are running a risk. But having said that, there is a lot of action which is happening in Singapore front as well. And now I take to the action. The action is that the government and the government agencies in Singapore are pushing very hard for the education, while this effort is not being seen from the corporate angle. But government agencies are trying very hard, and kudos to them. They are pushing very much as far as the education is concerned. And also Monetary Authority of Singapore is signing a lot of multilateral agreements with the international bodies, just like they recently signed with BIS, Bank for International Settlement, wherein they are promoting the stuff like Innovation Hub, and hopefully Treasury Consulting will surely be participating in Innovation Hub as well. Last but not the least, one thing which is also changing up, which is good for Singapore, and I think that can only happen in Singapore, is that The leading universities like NUS, National University of Singapore, SMU, Singapore Management University, and Nanyang and all, they are launching their academies. Like in FinTech Festival, I was very surprised to see that, very much surprised to see that both the two leading universities of Singapore, one is SMU, Singapore Management University, came up with a product called, or a system called, or an ecosystem called SMU Academy, while NUS came up with their I think NUS FinTech platform, something like that, NUS FinTech platform. I was very happy that in this whole ecosystem, when MS claimed that around 60,000 plus people came and 900 plus exhibitions, we got 2 from NUS and SMU side. Though as usual, people were busy in collecting goodies, people were busy in collecting the business cards like me, people were busy in having food, and you know, rest I cannot tell you in public domain. But these universities coming up with lot of courses on the digital space, and they are trying to educate the people, which is good thing which is happening in Singapore. Now the second part of this video, it's another 2 minutes. I think that eventually Singapore will rule the show, because one good thing which is happening in Singapore is that it is not centralized. Government has made a lot of bodies, SMU, NUS, Enterprise Singapore, Economic Development Board, and we have many bodies. These bodies are playing their role in a very accurate way. Of course, scope of improvement is always there, but I at least rate them 9 out of 10. They deserve 9 out of 10 from my side. Scope of improvement is always there and has to be, and I think Singapore is working in that direction as always. But is that complete ecosystem is translating into the Southeast Asia? I don't think so. Thailand is far away from Singapore in terms of digital literacy. Philippines, very far. Dubai, I'm not saying very far, but not very close as well. India, I have no words. India is busy in making some temples. India is busy, and their credit rating has already degraded, you know very well. Eventually, if Singapore will continue to maintain that momentum in the next 5 years, and I hope so, I have the best wishes, then I'm damn sure that probably 5 years down the line, Singapore will regain as one of the leading fintech places of the globe. Currently, they are one of the leading fintech places in the Southeast Asia, and I'm sure if this momentum will continue with the same vision for the next 5 years, probably in a FinTech Festival 2024 or 25, Singapore might have 2,000 exhibitions, and it might be they have a FinTech Festival which runs for 7 whole days, because visiting 2,000 exhibitions for 7 days is still impossible. I wish all the best to Singapore, but having said that, with their permission, I would like to say that don't try to be thematic. Like this time, it's more insurtech and payment, and more importantly, as a regulator, it's our utmost and the professional duty to have a look of what banks are doing. And also, you know, to be very, very honest, we should also have a look that it should not be VC backed. You know, because no one envisaged that in 2008 banks can collapse like a crash of cards, but it happened. And if SoftBank collapsed, and the chances are very, very big, then the same situation will happen. And if this happens, things would be mess up. I request Singapore, and I once again congratulate Singapore for FinTech Festival. It very well accept the part of the banks. Banks not did for what they're supposed to. But 11th, 12th, 13th, hats off to Monetary Authority of Singapore and all the bodies, they work very well. FinTech ecosystem is very good. Your recent deal with Bank of International Settlement by Rahul Magan, hats off. Now the French Central Bank also setting up their office in Singapore, BIS setting up their office in Singapore. It's wonderful, and I think things going very good. I only have last request, keep this momentum, don't be complacent, and make sure that we make Singapore once again a #1 place, once again better than London, better than US. We are always here, and we are one of the contenders for the digital banking, and our endeavor is also the same, to make Singapore #1. With this, we thank you very much. You know my mobile number, which is +91 and Indian code 9899242978. You know our fixed income platform, www.fixedincome.global. Have a good time. This is video from my Singapore office, and hopefully next year in the FinTech Festival, we see you as a bank. Have a great time.